You've been their puppet for so long, haven't you? Dancing to their strings, hoping, begging for their approval like some lost soul in the desert chasing mirages. But let me ask you something. How's that been working out for you? Did they clap for you? Did they celebrate you? Or did they just smirk, shrug, and toss you aside like yesterday's trash? You see, the world, this beautifully chaotic mess we live in, it doesn't respect weakness. It chews you up and spits you out the moment you show even a sliver of need. And you're out here breaking your back for their applause. You're craving a pat on the back from people who wouldn't even lift a finger to save you from drowning. Do you know what that makes you? A beggar. And beggars, my dear friend, they don't get a seat at the table. They're left outside in the cold, shivering, forgotten. But here's the kicker. Silence, that's your weapon. That's your freedom. When you stop reacting, stop pleading, stop chasing, that's when you win. Be indifferent. Oh, they hate that. They can't stand it. Because your silence, it's louder than their insults. It's sharper than their betrayals. It's the knife that cuts through their pride. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine this. There's a room full of people. They're all laughing, joking, having the time of their lives. And there you are, standing in the corner, quiet. They'll glance at you, whisper among themselves, maybe even laugh a little louder just to see if they can provoke you. But you stay silent. You don't flinch. You don't react. Do you know what happens next? The room gets quieter. Their laughter turns into nervous chuckles because they can't figure you out. They don't know what's going on inside your head, and that terrifies them. People hate what they can't understand. They fear it. And fear? That's power. You see, the loudest person in the room is often the weakest. They scream and shout to hide their insecurities, to mask their fears. But the one who sits in silence, who observes, who listens, that's the one who holds the real power. Because silence, it's control, it's discipline, it's the ultimate form of strength. And here's the beauty of it. It's not about them. No, it's about you. When you learn to be indifferent, to detach yourself from their opinions, their judgments, their approval, you free yourself. You become untouchable. They can't hurt you because you've taken away their weapon. You've taken away your need for them. Think about it. When they ignore you and you don't care, you win. When they insult you and you stay silent, you win. When they try to provoke you and you just smile, oh, that drives them mad. That's the silence that breaks their pride. That's the indifference that shatters their ego. But don't get it twisted. Being indifferent doesn't mean being weak. No, no, no. It means being strong enough to walk away, strong enough to stand alone. It means knowing your worth, even when the world tries to tell you otherwise. It's not about being heartless. It's about protecting your heart from those who don't deserve it. Let me give you a little logic, a real-world example. You ever seen a stray dog? It'll bark, chase cars, maybe even bite if it feels threatened. But a lion doesn't need to bark. It doesn't need to chase. It just exists, and everything around it knows to respect it. That's indifference. That's power. Now I know what you're thinking, but Joker, what about love? What about compassion? Ah, my sweet, naive friend. Love is beautiful, yes. Compassion is noble, but misplaced love, misguided compassion, that's a slow poison. You can pour your heart out to people, give them your everything, and they'll still leave you empty. They'll still find a way to betray you. Save your love for those who deserve it. Save your compassion for those who value it. And for the rest, be indifferent. Not out of hate, but out of self-respect. Because your silence, it's not just a shield, it's a mirror. It forces them to see their own flaws, their own insecurities. And trust me, that's the kind of pain they'll never recover from. They'll call you cold. They'll call you heartless. Let them. They'll say you've changed. Good. Change is a sign of growth. And growth, that's what scares them the most. Because the moment you grow, the moment you rise above their petty games, their toxic cycles, you become unstoppable. Be indifferent, my friend. Not because you don't care, but because you care too much to waste your energy on people who don't matter. Be indifferent. Not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to choose your battles. Be indifferent. Because in the end, it's not about them. It's about you. Remember this, silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Indifference isn't cruelty, it's clarity. And pride is their prison. So let them rot in it, while you'll walk free, unbothered, untouched, unstoppable. Because in this world, my friend, the loudest voice doesn't win. The calmest one does. The indifferent one does. The silent one does. Be silent, be indifferent, and watch as their pride crumbles into dust. You're probably wondering, how do I just stop caring? How do I switch off everything I've been taught to feel? Oh, I see it in your eyes. Even if you're not here, you're a thinker, aren't you? Overthinking every move, every word, every glance they throw your way. Your mind's a prison cell, and you're the one locking the door every time you let their opinions, their judgments, their whispers control you. But let me tell you something, and listen carefully this time. Freedom starts in your head. It's not about ignoring the world. It's about mastering your world. They want you to play their game, to run in circles, trying to please them. to prove yourself to people who wouldn't cross a puddle for you. Stop playing their game. Play your own. You see, the trick is simple. Don't show your hand. Ever. The more you reveal, the more power they have over you. Your silence, it's not just a defense, it's a weapon. Every time you hold back, every time you let them wonder, you're not just surviving, you're winning. They crave your reaction because it feeds their ego, their need for control. Take that away from them, and they starve. And what happens to someone who starves? They grow desperate, weak, pathetic. They'll lash out, throw everything they've got at you. And you'll just stand there, calm, unshaken. That's the difference between you and them. They need you to crumble, to feel strong. But you don't need their validation to stand tall. Let me break it down for you, step by step, like a blueprint for survival in this twisted world. First, accept this truth. You owe them nothing. Not your time, not your energy, not your explanations. You didn't come into this world to carry their burdens, to meet their expectations, to fit into their tiny, suffocating boxes. You exist for you. And that's reason enough to stop apologizing for who you are. Second, learn to walk away. I know, it sounds simple, doesn't it? But it's the hardest thing you'll ever do. Because walking away means letting go of the hope that they'll change, that they'll finally see your worth, that they'll suddenly wake up and realize what they've lost. Spoiler alert, they won't. People don't change unless they want to. And most of them, they're too comfortable in their own lies to even try. And they'll call you selfish, arrogant, ungrateful. Oh, they'll throw every insult in the book at you. Why? Because your silence exposes their insecurities. Your indifference highlights their irrelevance. They can't stand it. They need you to care, to react, to give them the satisfaction of knowing they still matter to you. But when you don't, when you just smile and walk away, that's when you've truly won. You see, life's a game of chess, not checkers. And you've been playing like a pawn, moving one square at a time, hoping to survive. But me, I'm telling you to think like a king, or better yet, like a queen. Move with purpose, with strategy. Every silence, every step back, every calculated decision, it's not retreat, it's positioning. And when the time comes, you strike, not with anger, not with desperation, but with cold, calculated indifference. They'll hate you for it, you know. They'll call you cold, heartless, distant. And you'll let them, because their hatred, it's just proof that you've taken back control. Their words, their opinions, they're just noise now. Background static in a world where your silence is the only thing that truly matters. And here's the irony. They'll try to break you with the same tactics you used to fall for. They'll play the victim guilt trip you, paint you as the villain in their twisted story. But you'll stay indifferent. Because the moment you give in, the moment you break your silence, you hand them the keys to your mind. And trust me, they'll use them to lock you back in that prison you just escaped from. Remember this, your silence isn't just for them, it's for you. It's the space where you heal, where you grow, where you find yourself again. It's the shield that protects your peace, your sanity, your soul. And if that makes you the villain in their eyes, so be it. Because in their story, you'll always be the villain. But in yours, you're the hero, the survivor, the one who walked through fire and came out stronger, colder, untouchable. Be indifferent. Let their words bounce off you like raindrops on stone. Let their pride crumble under the weight of your silence. And when they come crawling back, begging for the attention they once took for granted, you'll know that you've won. Not because you fought harder, but because you stopped fighting altogether. Because you realized that the real battle, it was never with them. It was always with yourself. Oh, don't think we're done yet, he snarls, pacing once more. You're still clinging to some hope, aren't you? Some dream that they'll come around, that they'll wake up one day and see you for what you're worth. But let me ask you this. When has hope ever been kind to you? When has it ever been more than a chain wrapped around your ankles, dragging you deeper into the pit they threw you in? Hope is their greatest trick, you know. It's the carrot they dangle just out of your reach, keeping you running in circles, wearing yourself down until you're nothing but a shell. And they love it. They love watching you chase it because it feeds their power. They thrive on it. But the moment you stop, the moment you plant your feet, cross your arms, and say, "No more," that's when the game ends. And trust me, they don't know what to do when the game ends. Imagine a circus. There's a lion in a cage, pacing back and forth, roaring, snarling, putting on a show. And the crowd, they cheer, they laugh, they throw peanuts, thinking they're in control because the lion is behind bars. But what happens when the lion sits down? Stops roaring, stops pacing. The crowd grows restless, uneasy. They don't know what's coming next because the lion has taken back control. It's silence. It's stillness. It's more terrifying than any roar could ever be. That's the power of indifference. That's the power of walking away. And you've been pacing that cage for too long, roaring for an audience that doesn't deserve you. They want you to believe you need them, that without their approval, their applause, their breadcrumbs of validation, you're nothing. But here's the truth. They don't want you to know. They need you more than you'll ever need them. Your attention, your energy, your reaction, that's what keeps them alive. That's what fuels their pride. Take it away and watch them crumble. Watch them claw and beg and scream for the thing they once took for granted. But don't give it to them. Don't you dare. Because every time you do, you hand them another piece of your soul. And your soul, it's not theirs to take. It's yours. It's the only thing that's truly yours. Protect it. Guard it like a fortress. And if they come knocking, trying to tear it down, don't fight them. Don't argue. Don't explain. Just close the gates and walk away. You see, walking away isn't weakness. It's not giving up. It's choosing yourself over their chaos. It's saying, I deserve better than this. And you do. You deserve better than their lies, their manipulations, their empty promises. But you'll never get it as long as you keep playing their game. I know it's hard. Trust me, I do. I've been where you are, standing on the edge, torn between holding on and letting go. It's a lonely place, isn't it? The silence, the stillness. It's deafening at first. But give it time, let it settle. And you'll realize something incredible. Silence isn't empty. It's full of possibility, of peace, of clarity. It's the space where you can finally hear your own voice, your own thoughts, your own truth. And that's worth more than all the noise in the world. They'll try to pull you back, you know. They'll cry, scream, beg, do whatever it takes to get you to react. Because your reaction, that's their lifeline. But you'll stay silent. Because your silence, it's not just power, it's justice. Think of all the times they ignored you, dismissed you, made you feel small. This is your revenge. Not anger, not violence, not words, just silence. Cold, unshakable silence. And it'll drive them mad. Because deep down, they'll know they lost you. And that's a loss they'll feel every day for the rest of their lives. Be indifferent. Be the lion that sits quietly in its cage, waiting, watching, unbothered by the crowd. Be the storm that doesn't announce its arrival but leaves destruction in its wake. Be the silence that breaks their pride, their ego, their illusions. And most importantly, be you. Not the you they want, not the you they've tried to mold and manipulate. Be the you that's free, untouchable, unstoppable. Because in the end, it's not about them. It's never been about them. It's about you. And you're worth everything they'll never admit, everything they'll never give. So take it for yourself and leave them in the silence they created. And yet here you stand, doubting yourself. I see it. You're thinking, what if they're right? What if I need them? That's the final trick, isn't it? That insidious little seed they planted in your mind. Doubt. Let me tell you something about doubt. It's not yours. It's theirs. It's their weapon, their leash, their control. They've spent so long convincing you that you're nothing without them, that you've started to believe it. But let me ask you this. What were they before they met you? What did they have to offer? What did they build without your energy, your effort, your strength? Nothing. They were empty vessels feeding off the light you gave them. And now that you've taken it away, they're scrambling, lost, desperate to get it back. That's why they keep coming for you. Not because they care, not because they love you, but because they need you to fill the void they can't face. You see, people don't like mirrors, not real ones anyway. They don't want to see themselves for what they are, so they use you. They project their failures, their insecurities, their brokenness onto you. It's easier for them to blame you than to face their own reflection. And you've been their mirror for far too long. But mirrors, they can shatter. And when they do, the people looking into them are forced to see themselves in the shards. That's what your indifference does. It breaks the mirror. It forces them to see their true selves, stripped of your energy, your support, your forgiveness. And trust me, most people can't handle that. They'd rather destroy you than face themselves. That's why you have to be unbreakable, not for them, for you. Because the moment you crumble, the moment you give in, they'll swoop in like vultures, picking at the pieces of you, feeding off what's left. But if you stand tall, if you stay silent, if you refuse to give them what they want, they'll starve, they'll fade, and you'll rise. Think about it. Who are the people you remember most? The ones who yelled and screamed for attention? Or the ones who left quietly, leaving you with nothing but questions? Nothing but the weight of their absence? It's the silence that haunts. It's the absence that lingers. And that's your power. But let's not lie to ourselves. This path, it's not easy, it's lonely. Silence is heavy and indifference is a burden. You'll question yourself. You'll wonder if it's worth it. You'll feel the pull to go back, to explain, to justify, to try one more time. And that's the hardest part, resisting the pull. Because every time you go back, you reset the clock. Every time you explain yourself, you hand them a little more of your power. Every time you try again, you're telling them they were right, that you need them more than they need you. Don't give them that satisfaction. Let them sit in the silence, in the void they created. Let them stew in their own pride, their own ego, their own mess. You don't owe them a thing. Not your time, not your words, not your energy. And here's the thing, they'll come for you. Oh, they will. They'll try to pull you back in to drag you down to their level. They'll use every trick in the book. Guilt, anger, love, pity. They'll twist your memories, your emotions, your history, trying to weaken you. But you you'll see it for what it is. A game. A desperate, pathetic game. And you won't play. You'll stand there, silent, indifferent, unshaken. Because you know the truth now. You see the strings they're trying to pull. And once you see the strings, the puppet master loses all his power. Let them talk. Let them rage. Let them beg. And you'll just smile. Because you know their words are empty. Their anger is fear. Their pleas are manipulation. You see through it all, and you rise above it. That's what they fear most. You, standing tall, unbothered, unbroken. Because your strength reminds them of their weakness. Your silence reminds them of their noise. Your indifference reminds them of their irrelevance. And in the end, that's what breaks them. Not your anger, not your words, your silence, your absence, your refusal to play their game. Remember this, my friend. Not out of hate, not out of spite, but out of self-respect, out of love for yourself. Because when you choose yourself, when you refuse to be their mirror, their puppet, their pawn, you win. And trust me, winning, it's the best silence of all. Ah, I see it now. You're starting to understand, aren't you? That spark in your eyes, it's not doubt anymore. It's clarity. But let me warn you, the world won't take kindly to your awakening. Oh no, they'll come for you. They always do. Because your silence, your refusal to play by their rules, it threatens everything they stand for. They'll call you names, cold, heartless, arrogant. They'll paint you as the villain in their story. And here's the truth. They're right. You are the villain in their story. Because their story is built on lies, on manipulation, on control. And you're the chaos that shatters their carefully constructed illusions. But here's the secret. They don't hate you for your silence. They hate you because they need you. They hate you because your absence reminds them of their emptiness. Your indifference forces them to confront the parts of themselves they've been running from their entire lives. Think about it. When was the last time they stood alone, without someone to blame, without someone to lean on? Never. They don't know how. And that's why they fear you. Because your silence, it's not just a rejection of them, it's a reflection of their own insignificance. They'll try to guilt you, of course. You've changed, they'll say. They'll say, you're not the same person I used to know. And they'll be right. You have changed. But that's the point, isn't it? Change is growth. Change is strength. Change is what terrifies them the most, because it means you've outgrown their games, their lies, their shallow little world. And don't think for a second they'll let you go without a fight. Oh no. They'll dig up every mistake you've ever made, twist every word you've ever said, weaponize every emotion you've ever shown. They'll try to drag you back into their chaos because they can't stand the idea of you being free while they remain trapped. But you'll stay silent. You'll stay indifferent because their chaos isn't yours to fix. Their pain isn't yours to carry. Their lies aren't yours to unravel. You owe them nothing. And the moment you realize that, the moment you truly accept that, that's when you become unstoppable. Let me tell you something about power. Real power isn't loud. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It doesn't beg. Real power is quiet. It's still. It's the unshakable confidence of someone who knows their worth, who knows they don't need anyone's approval to stand tall. And you have that power. It's been buried beneath their lies, their manipulation, their noise. But it's there, waiting. All you have to do is embrace it. All you have to do is let go of the need to be understood, to be validated, to be accepted. Because the truth is, most people will never understand you. They'll never see your worth. And that's okay. Their blindness doesn't diminish your value. It only exposes their ignorance. Here's what I want you to do. The next time they try to pull you back, the next time they try to provoke you, I want you to smile. Not a fake, forced smile, but a genuine one. Smile because you know their words can't touch you. Smile because you've taken back your power. Smile because you've won. It won't be easy, I know. Silence is heavy. Indifference is lonely. But it's worth it. Because in that silence, in that stillness, you'll find something they can never take from you. Yourself, your strength, your clarity, your peace. That's what this is about. Not revenge, not proving them wrong, but finding yourself again. And when you do, when you stand tall, silent, unshaken, they'll finally see you for what you are. Not a victim, not a pawn, but a force. A force they can't control, can't manipulate, can't break. Owe it to yourself to find peace in the silence. Not the kind of peace they preach about in books or sermons. No, I'm talking about the peace that comes from knowing you've taken back your power. The kind of peace that whispers to you in the dead of night, telling you that you don't need anyone's approval to exist, to thrive, to rise. That peace, it's priceless, and it's yours if you're brave enough to hold on to it. They'll remember you, you know. Not for the times you begged or pleaded or tried to fit into their world. No, they'll remember you for the silence, for the way you left without looking back, for the way you took your light and let them drown in their own darkness. And that memory, it'll haunt them more than any words ever could. But don't wait for their regret. Don't live your life hoping they'll see the error of their ways. That's not your story to tell. Your story is about moving forward, about building a world where their absence isn't a void, but a blessing. Fill that world with strength, with purpose, with everything they told you you couldn't have. And when you look back, let it be with a smile, not of pain, but of triumph. You see, they'll try to rewrite the story, paint you as the villain, the one who abandoned them, who turned cold. Let them spin their tales, clutch at their pride, because you don't need to explain yourself. Not to them, not to anyone. Your life isn't a courtroom, and you owe no defense. The truth, it's in your silence, and the truth doesn't need words to exist. Be careful, though. Indifference isn't about shutting yourself off from the world. It's not about becoming numb or bitter. It's about choosing where to invest your energy, your time, your heart. Save it for those who see you, who value you, who don't need to tear you down, to feel tall. Save it for yourself, because at the end of the day, you're the only one who truly has to live with your choices. And here's the final piece of the puzzle: forgiveness. Not for them, they don't deserve it. Forgive yourself for staying too long, for giving too much, for not walking away sooner. Forgive yourself because you were doing the best you could with what you knew at the time. And now you know better. And knowing better is the first step to doing better. Be indifferent, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Be silent, not because you're weak, but because your silence screams louder than any words ever could. Walk away, not because you've given up, but because you finally decided to rise. And when the world asks why you're so calm, so unbothered, so untouchable, just smile, because they'll never understand the power of indifference, the strength in silence, the peace in walking away. And that's your victory.